Get on your knees. Officer Ryan Brennan's voice cuts through the August heat like a blade. His hand rests on his weapon, fingers drumming against the holster. Sir, I just need to explain. Did I ask you to talk? Kneel, dogs kneel. You kneel. Alicia Bennett feels the world tilt. She's 38 years old, dressed in a navy blazer and cream blouse, briefcase still sitting in her passenger seat. The sun beats down on the intersection of Riverside and Oak, temperature reading 127 degrees on the bank sign across the street. Her hands shake as Brennan yanks them behind her back, zip ties biting into her wrists. Please, I haven't done anything wrong. 15 years on this badge. I decide what's wrong. You? Brennan leans closer, his breath hot and bitter. You're nothing. Just another thug in a nice car you probably can't afford. The asphalt sears through her pants. Within seconds, her knees are screaming, the heat like pressing against a stove. Her fingers go numb from the zip ties. A little girl watches from across the street, ice cream melting down her hand. Mommy, why is that lady on the ground? Brennan smirks, adjusts his sunglasses. Maybe this will teach you to respect authority. People like you never learn. 9 minutes. Alicia counts every second, watching the numbers tick by on her watch, face pressed against the burning pavement. Sweat runs down her spine. Her professional updo comes undone, hair sticking to her neck. Cars slow down, people take out phones, record, shake their heads. But no one stops. No one steps forward. She doesn't cry. Doesn't beg. Just looks straight ahead at the melting tar, at her own reflection in a puddle of motor oil, and remembers everything. Every word. Every gesture. Every witness. What Officer Ryan Brennan doesn't know, what none of them standing there with their phones could possibly imagine, is that in just 4 weeks, he'll be the one on his knees. And she'll be the one deciding his fate. Before we continue with what happened next, if you're interested in stories about justice, courage, and people who refuse to stay silent, hit that subscribe button right now. This story gets intense, and you won't want to miss what happens when this officer discovers who he just humiliated. Let's keep going. 3 weeks later, the federal courthouse on Market Street feels like a pressure cooker. Courtroom 5A is packed to capacity. News cameras line the back wall, reporters elbow each other for position, and the gallery is standing room only. Officer Ryan Brennan walks to the witness stand like a man who owns the room. His dress uniform is immaculate, every brass button polished to a mirror shine, every crease razor sharp. 16 years on the force. 2 commendations. Medal of Valor for pulling a family from a burning vehicle in 2019. He places his hand on the Bible, swears to tell the truth, and sits down with the easy confidence of someone who has testified dozens of times before. His attorney, Richard Moss, a silver-haired man in a $1,500 suit, stands with a reassuring smile. Officer Brennan, please describe for the court what happened on August 12th. Brennan nods, voice steady and rehearsed. It was approximately 2:47 p.m. I was conducting routine patrol in the Riverside district when I observed a vehicle with heavily tinted windows, expired registration tags clearly visible. I initiated a standard traffic stop, approached the vehicle following all department protocols, identified myself as a police officer. And what happened when you made contact with the driver? Brennan's jaw tightens, a practiced gesture of concern. The subject immediately became verbally combative. Refused to provide identification without argument. Started making erratic movements toward the glove compartment, reaching for something I couldn't see. A murmur ripples through the gallery. Judge Raymond Foster, a stern black man in his 60s, raps his gavel once. Order. I repeatedly instructed the subject to keep her hands visible, Brennan continues. She refused to comply, became increasingly agitated. At that point, for my own safety and the safety of the public, I asked her to step out of the vehicle. And did she comply? Reluctantly. Brennan shakes his head slowly. She continued to argue, raised her voice, made threatening gestures. I felt genuinely concerned for my safety. So you utilized a standard compliance procedure? Correct. It's in our training manual. A temporary measure to de-escalate a volatile situation. The subject was released without charges after approximately 7 minutes once she calmed down. 7 minutes? A voice cuts through the courtroom before the defense can continue. It was 9 minutes and 43 seconds, Officer Brennan. And I didn't calm down. You just got bored. Every head turns. At the plaintiff's table, Alicia Bennett sits perfectly still, her attorney Marcus Chin placing a gentle hand on her arm. She's wearing a charcoal suit, her hair pulled back in a tight bun, reading glasses perched on her nose. She doesn't look angry. She looks deadly calm. Judge Foster leans forward. Ms. Bennett, you'll have your opportunity to speak. Please wait for cross-examination. Apologies, Your Honor. But the damage is done. The jury, 12 men and women from Riverside County, are all staring at her now. Really looking. Brennan shifts in his seat, that confident posture cracking just slightly. Marcus Chin, Alicia's attorney, a sharp man in his 40s with wire-rimmed glasses, stands for cross-examination. He's carrying a thick folder, and he sets it down on the podium with a deliberate thump that echoes through the silent courtroom. Officer Brennan, you testified that Dr. Bennett was verbally combative. Can you describe exactly what she said? She was questioning my authority, arguing about the stop. That's not what I asked. Chen's voice is surgical. What exact words did she use? Brennan hesitates. I don't recall the specific words. You don't recall. But you recall feeling threatened? Interesting. Chen pulls out a document. This is your incident report, filed that same evening. You wrote, and I quote, subject became belligerent and used profane language. Can you tell the court what profane language Dr. Bennett used? It was the tone more than the specific words. So she didn't actually curse at you? Not in those exact terms, but yes or no, Officer Brennan. Chen lets that hang in the air. And these erratic movements toward the glove compartment. What was Dr. Bennett reaching for? I didn't know at the time. But you know now, don't you? You inventoried her vehicle. What was in the glove compartment? Brennan's face reddens. Vehicle registration. Insurance documents. So she was reaching for the exact documents you asked her to provide? Objection, argumentative. Moss is on his feet. Sustained, but barely, Judge Foster says. Move on, Mr. Chin. Chin nods, flipping to another page. Officer Brennan, how many times in your career have you used this compliance procedure? Brennan shifts. I don't keep count. It's a standard tool. Let me help you. Chen projects an image onto the courtroom screen. This is data from your department's use of force database. Over the past 3 years, you've documented using this procedure 52 times. Does that sound accurate? If that's what the records show. And of those 52 incidents, how many resulted in arrests? Brennan goes quiet. His attorney is scribbling notes frantically. I'd have to check the exact number. 13. Chen's voice is calm, factual, devastating. 13 arrests out of 52 uses. That means 39 people were forced to kneel, zip-tied, held on the ground, and then released without charges. Can you explain how that serves public safety? Sometimes situations de-escalate once. Or perhaps, Chin cuts in, it serves a different purpose entirely. Let me ask you this. Of those 52 incidents, how many involved white subjects? Action. Moss is red-faced now. Relevance? Your Honor, it goes directly to the pattern and practice we're establishing. I'll allow it. Judge Foster leans back. Answer the question, Officer Brennan. Brennan's throat works. I don't see race when I do my job. I see threats. That's not what I asked. How many? Maybe 4 or 5. Chin clicks to the next slide. 4 out of 52. That's 7.7%. Do you know what percentage of Riverside County's population is white? Action. Overruled. Answer it. I don't know the exact demographics. 58%. Chin lets that number hang in the air like smoke. 58% white population, but 92% of your compliance procedures target people of color. Quite a remarkable coincidence, wouldn't you say? I follow my training. I respond to situations as they develop. Do you? Chin opens another folder. Let me read you something. Complaint filed October 2022, Tanya Brooks, 19 years old, Stopped for a broken taillight. Your report says she was uncooperative. She says you made her kneel for 12 minutes while you ran her license. No ticket issued. No arrest. Does that ring a bell? I deal with hundreds of stops. I can't remember every. Complaint filed March 2023, Isaiah Carter, stopped for failure to signal. Made to kneel with his 8-year-old daughter watching from the car. 15 minutes. No ticket. No arrest. Remember that one? Brennan's jaw clenches. If these complaints had merit, Internal Affairs would have. All marked unfounded or not sustained by Sergeant Howard Mitchell, who is currently under federal investigation for complaint suppression. Chen's voice rises slightly. Isn't that correct? I don't control Internal Affairs. No, but you benefit from it. Chen closes the folder. One more question, Officer Brennan. On August 12th, when you had Dr. Bennett on her knees on 127-degree asphalt, when you told her she was nothing, when you said people like her never learn, what exactly did you mean by people like her? The courtroom is dead silent. Brennan's face has gone from red to pale. I meant people who don't respect law enforcement. Not people who don't respect white police officers? Action. Withdrawn. Chen sits down. No further questions. The afternoon session brings the body camera footage. The courtroom lights dim, and the large screen flickers to life. There's Brennan's patrol car pulling up behind Alicia's black sedan. There's his approach, hand already on his weapon before he even reaches the window. License and registration. Of course, officer. May I ask why I'm being stopped? Your registration is expired. On the screen, Alicia's hands are clearly visible, reaching slowly into her glove compartment. She pulls out the registration, holds it up to the window. Officer, my registration is current. I renewed it 6 weeks ago. See? Valid through next August. Brennan barely glances at it. Step out of the vehicle. Sir, I've provided everything you asked for. Can you please explain? Step out of the vehicle now. The footage shows Alicia complying, movements slow and deliberate, hands visible at all times. She's calm, professional, even as Brennan circles her like a predator. You were driving erratically. I was going 43 in a 45 zone. My lane discipline was... Are you arguing with me? I'm simply asking for clarification on why. Turn around. Hands behind your back. Officer, this is completely unnecessary. I haven't. The zip ties come out. Brennan yanks her arms back hard enough that she gasps. On your knees. Please, sir, the pavement is extremely hot. I'm happy to comply with any lawful. I said kneel. The footage shows her going down, the impact, the way her whole body flinches as her knees hit the asphalt. 9 minutes and 43 seconds of footage. Brennan pacing around her, on his phone, laughing with Officer Nicole Warren when she arrives as backup. Alicia perfectly still, sweat darkening her blouse, but her face composed. Silent. Enduring. When the lights come back up, 3 jurors are crying. The rest look furious. Chen calls his next witness. Dr. Robert Kim, forensic video analyst with 20 years of experience, takes the stand. He walks the jury through frame-by-frame analysis. No erratic movements. No threatening gestures. Voice stress analysis shows Alicia's tone remained calm and measured throughout. Every single claim Brennan made in his testimony is contradicted by his own body camera. Then comes Dr. Jennifer Mills, statistician from Columbia University. She presents the data in stark, undeniable terms. 52 incidents. 48 people of color. In a precinct that's 58% white. The probability of this pattern occurring by chance? Less than 0.01%, Dr. Mills says. This is not random. This is targeting. But the most devastating testimony comes on day 3. Officer Nicole Warren takes the stand, and the courtroom goes completely still. She's in civilian clothes, her police uniform retired 3 days ago after 12 years of service. Her hands shake as she's sworn in. Chen approaches gently. Officer Warren, you were Officer Brennan's partner on August 12th. Can you describe what you observed? Warren's voice is barely a whisper. Dr. Bennett was completely compliant. Respectful even. There was no threat. No erratic behavior. Nothing that justified what Officer Brennan did. Did you voice any concerns? I tried. Warren's eyes fill with tears. I said, Ryan, is this really necessary? He told me to stand down, that he had it under control. I should have done more. I should have stopped him. Why didn't you? Because I was scared. Warren looks directly at Alicia. Scared of being labeled a rat. Scared of losing my career. Scared of what happens when you go against the Brotherhood. But watching you kneel there, watching him humiliate you and doing nothing? That scared me more. I'm so sorry. The courtroom is silent except for Warren's quiet crying. Judge Foster calls for a brief recess. During the break, the gallery buzzes with conversation. Reporters file updates. Alicia sits at the plaintiff's table, hands folded, face unreadable. Marcus Chin leans over, whispers something. She nods once. When court resumes, Chin calls more witnesses. Tanya Brooks, now 20, takes the stand in her college sweatshirt. She describes being stopped on her way to an entrance interview for engineering school. 12 minutes on her knees. She missed the interview. Lost her scholarship opportunity. Isaiah Carter, a father of 3, describes his 8-year-old daughter screaming from the back seat as Brennan forced him down. My baby thought they were going to kill me. She still wakes up crying. Still flinches when she sees police cars. She's in therapy twice a week. Rosa Delgado, 73, testifies through a translator. She has severe arthritis, showed Brennan her medical alert bracelet, begged him not to make her kneel. He didn't care. I fell on my face. Broke my glasses. Couldn't get up without help. She lifts her sleeve, shows the permanent scar on her elbow. 12 victims in total testify. 12 lives marked by 9 minutes, 12 minutes, 15 minutes of public humiliation. 12 people who did nothing wrong except exist in their own skin while Officer Ryan Brennan decided to exercise his power. By day 4, the defense is scrambling. They call character witnesses, people who swear Brennan is a good man, a dedicated officer, a pillar of the community. But Chin dismantles each one methodically. Did you know about the 52 incidents? Did you know about the complaints? Did you know 92% of his targets were people of color? The courtroom feels like a powder keg. Judge Foster has already ejected 2 people for outbursts. The jury looks exhausted, angry, determined. And then, on the afternoon of day 4, everything changes. Your Honor, Alicia's voice cuts through the stuffy air. May I approach the bench? Judge Foster looks surprised. Ms. Bennett, is there something your attorney needs to address? With respect, Your Honor, I'd like to address it myself. Judge Foster exchanges a glance with Marcus Chin, who nods. Approach. Alicia walks to the bench, Chin beside her. She's carrying a leather portfolio. The sidebar conference lasts 3 minutes. Brennan and his attorney watch nervously. The gallery cranes their necks, trying to hear. When Alicia returns to the plaintiff's table, Judge Foster is staring at a document, his expression unreadable. The court will take a 15-minute recess. When we return, I have an announcement. Foster bangs his gavel. The hallway explodes with speculation. Reporters swarm Chin, who says nothing. Alicia disappears into a conference room. Brennan paces outside the courtroom, his attorney hissing urgent questions. Warren sits on a bench, head in her hands. When court reconvenes, the tension is suffocating. Judge Foster clears his throat. Before we continue, the plaintiff has requested permission to make a statement and has provided certain credentials to the court. After review, I'm granting this request. Ms. Bennett, you may proceed. Alicia stands. She doesn't walk to the witness stand. She stands at the plaintiff's table, facing the courtroom, facing Brennan, facing the jury. She removes her reading glasses, sets them down carefully. Your Honor, members of the jury, before I continue, I'd like to formally enter my professional credentials into the record. She opens the portfolio, hands documents to the clerk. The clerk's eyes widen as she reads. I am Dr. Alicia Bennett, Senior Special Prosecutor, United States Department of Justice, Civil Rights Division. Columbia Law School, Class of 2011, graduated summa cum laude. Harvard Kennedy School of Government, Masters in Public Policy, 2013. For the past 10 years, I have prosecuted 73 cases of police misconduct across 14 states. 41 convictions. 32 officers currently serving federal sentences. I've written policy briefs on use of force reform that have been adopted by 6 state legislatures. I've trained FBI agents on recognizing patterns of discriminatory policing. The courtroom erupts. Cameras flash. Reporters scramble for their phones. Brennan's face has gone completely white, his mouth hanging open. His attorney looks like he might be sick. Judge Foster bangs his gavel repeatedly. Order. Order in this court. The noise dies down slowly. Alicia continues, her voice steady and clear. On August 12th, I was driving home from a conference where I had just delivered the keynote address on racial profiling in traffic stops. I had in my briefcase a presentation detailing exactly the kind of pattern Officer Brennan has spent 3 years creating. The irony was not lost on me when I saw those lights in my rearview mirror. She turns to face Brennan directly. When you made me kneel, Officer Brennan, when you told me I was nothing, when you said people like me never learn, I knew exactly what you were doing. Because I've prosecuted 41 men just like you. I've sat across from them in interrogation rooms. I've cross-examined them in federal court. I've watched them realize, too late, that their badge doesn't protect them from justice. Ms. Bennett, Judge Foster interrupts gently, are you requesting to co-counsel in your own case? With Mr. Chen's consent and your permission, Your Honor, yes. Chen stands. The plaintiff's table would be honored to have Dr. Bennett's expertise, Your Honor. Judge Foster considers this. The rules allow it, though it's highly unusual. Given Dr. Bennett's qualifications and the nature of this case, I'll permit it. Dr. Bennett, Officer Brennan is still under oath. You may cross-examine. The courtroom goes silent. Alicia walks slowly to the podium, her heels clicking against the floor. Brennan looks like he wants to run. His attorney is frantically whispering to him, but Brennan isn't listening. He's staring at Alicia like she's a ghost. Officer Brennan, let's start simple. You testified that you've received 0 sustained complaints in your career. Is that accurate? His voice cracks. He clears his throat. Alicia pulls out a thick folder. Your Honor, I'd like to enter into evidence internal affairs files for Officer Brennan, obtained through federal subpoena. She hands copies to the clerk, the judge, the jury. These documents show 17 formal complaints filed against Officer Brennan in 3 years. All 17 were marked either unfounded or not sustained by Sergeant Howard Mitchell. She clicks a remote. The screen lights up with a chart. Sergeant Mitchell is currently under investigation by my office for systematically suppressing complaints against officers in his command. Of the 234 complaints filed in his precinct over 3 years, he sustained exactly 4. That's a 1.7% sustained rate. The national average is 23%. Would you like to revise your testimony about 0 sustained complaints, Officer Brennan? Brennan's attorney objects, but Judge Foster overrules him. Those complaints were all unfounded, Brennan insists weakly. Were they? Alicia advances. Complaint 2022-117, filed by Marcus Thompson. He alleged you called him boy and made him sit on the curb for 40 minutes while you searched his car without consent. Found nothing. No ticket. No arrest. Unfounded. She flips a page. Complaint 2023-056, Keisha Williams. Alleges you told her she looked like a prostitute and should get out of your neighborhood. Unfounded. Complaint 2023-198, David Chin. Alleges you mocked his accent and said people like him should go back where they came from. Unfounded. That's not, I never what? Said those things? Or never thought you'd be held accountable for saying them. Vection. Your Honor, this is harassment. Overruled. Answer the question, Officer Brennan. I might have used poor word choices, but I never meant. You never meant what? To sound racist? To abuse your power? Alicia's voice cuts like steel. Let me ask you something else. Of your 52 documented uses of this compliance procedure, exactly how many do you believe were absolutely necessary? All of them. I followed protocol. Alicia turns to the jury. Ladies and gentlemen, I've reviewed the Riverside Police Department's use of force manual. All 600 pages. Would you like to know how many times the word kneel appears in reference to suspect control? Sir. How many times prolonged restraint on hot pavement is authorized for traffic violations? Sir. There is no protocol for what Officer Brennan did. There's a word for it, but it's not protocol. She turns back to Brennan. The word is torture. Brennan's attorney is on his feet, shouting objections, but Alicia doesn't stop. She's a surgeon now, precise and relentless. On August 12th, Officer Brennan, you had me on my knees for 9 minutes and 43 seconds. The asphalt temperature was 127 degrees. Did you know that sustained contact with surfaces above 120 degrees causes second-degree burns in less than 5 minutes? I didn't know the exact temperature, but you felt it, didn't you? When you walked around me, when you leaned down to mock me, you felt how hot it was. You just didn't care. Alicia pulls up medical records on the screen. These are photos of my knees taken 6 hours after you released me. Second-degree burns. Blistering. Scarring that I'll carry for the rest of my life. She looks at the jury. Physical scars heal. But what about the others? She gestures to the gallery where Tanya, Isaiah, Rosa, and 9 other victims sit. Tanya Brooks lost a scholarship worth $80,000 because she missed that interview. Isaiah Carter's daughter has PTSD. She's 8 years old and terrified of police. Rosa Delgado can't kneel in church anymore. Can't play with her grandchildren on the floor. What's the protocol for that, Officer Brennan? What's the procedure for destroying lives? Brennan's face is red, tears streaming down now. I'm not a monster. I served my community. Did you? Or did you terrorize it? Because serving looks like protection. What you did looks like domination. There's a difference. She turns to the evidence table, picks up a small object. This is my DOJ identification badge. The one I had in my briefcase on August 12th. You never asked to see it. Never asked what I did for a living. Never asked anything beyond what would confirm what you'd already decided about me the moment you saw my face. Her voice drops, quieter but somehow more powerful. I want you to understand something, Officer Brennan. I've dedicated my entire career to cases like this because I believe in justice. I believe police officers can be good. I've worked with hundreds of good officers, people who put on that badge because they genuinely want to help. People who see that badge as a responsibility, not a weapon. But men like you make their jobs harder. You make communities distrust all police because they can't tell the difference between the protectors and the predators. You've done more damage to law enforcement than any criminal ever could. She steps closer to the witness stand. So let me ask you one final question, and I want you to think very carefully before you answer. If our positions were reversed, if I had been the one with the power that day and you had been the one on your knees, do you think I would have treated you the way you treated me? Brennan can't speak. He just stares at her, tears running down his face. I'll answer for you. Because I was raised to see people as human beings. Not threats. Not statistics. Not things to be controlled. And that's the difference between us. Alicia returns to the plaintiff's table. No further questions, Your Honor. The silence in the courtroom is absolute. Even the reporters have stopped typing. Judge Foster clears his throat, visibly moved. We'll adjourn for the day. Closing arguments tomorrow morning. That night, the footage goes viral. Alicia's cross-examination is played on every news channel, dissected by legal experts, shared millions of times on social media. Outside the courthouse, protesters gather with signs reading justice for the 52 and badge does not equal immunity. Counter-protesters hold signs supporting police. The tension is palpable. Inside a hotel room, Alicia sits with Marcus Chin and Nicole Warren. Warren hasn't stopped apologizing. I should have stopped him that day, Warren says again. I knew it was wrong. Alicia reaches across, takes her hand. You're stopping him now. That matters. Does it? Warren wipes her eyes. I threw away my career. My pension. 12 years gone. Chin shakes his head. You found your conscience. That's not losing anything. That's winning. Day 5. Closing arguments. The courtroom is even more packed than before. People lined up outside since 5 a.m. for a chance to get in. Brennan's attorney goes first, and he's fighting an uphill battle. He talks about Brennan's years of service, his commendations, his family. He's a human being who made mistakes, not a monster, Richard Moss pleads. He deserves our understanding, not our condemnation. But when Alicia stands for her closing argument, the energy shifts. She doesn't use notes. She doesn't need them. Members of the jury, this case is not about one traffic stop. It's about 52 moments where power crushed dignity. 52 times where someone knelt not because they were guilty, but because they were vulnerable. 52 instances where Officer Brennan decided that his authority mattered more than someone else's humanity. She walks slowly in front of the jury box. The defense wants you to see Officer Brennan as a man who made mistakes. I want you to see him as a man who made choices. He chose to ignore my valid registration. He chose to escalate instead of de-escalate. He chose to use pain as compliance. He chose his targets based on the color of their skin. These weren't mistakes. This was a pattern. This was intentional. She pauses, lets that sink in. And here's what makes it even worse. He did it in public. In front of witnesses. In front of children. He did it brazenly because he believed, truly believed, that he would never face consequences. That his badge made him untouchable. That people like me, like Tanya, like Isaiah, like Rosa, that we were nobody. That we didn't matter. Her voice rises slightly. But we do matter. Every single person he humiliated matters. And today, you have the power to say that loud enough for every officer in every precinct in this country to hear it. You have the power to say that the badge is not a shield for abuse. That authority comes with accountability. That justice isn't just for some people. It's for all people. She returns to the plaintiff's table. Officer Brennan spent 9 minutes and 43 seconds teaching me a lesson. Now it's your turn to teach him one. Thank you. The jury deliberates for 6 hours. When they return, not one of them looks at Brennan. The foreman, a white man in his 60s who served in the military, stands when the judge asks for the verdict. On the count of unlawful detention, we find the defendant guilty. On the count of excessive force, we find the defendant guilty. On the count of civil rights violations under color of law, we find the defendant guilty. The courtroom erupts in applause and tears. Judge Foster doesn't even try to stop it. He lets the moment breathe. Brennan slumps in his chair, his attorney's hand on his shoulder. In the gallery, Tanya is sobbing. Isaiah holds his wife. Rosa crosses herself, lips moving in silent prayer. Judge Foster sets sentencing for 6 weeks later, but the criminal referral goes through immediately. Federal prosecutors, Alicia's own office, take the case. 8 months later, Officer Ryan Brennan is sentenced to 8 years in federal prison. His badge revoked. His pension gone. His appeals denied. But the impact spreads far beyond one man. The DOJ investigation expands to the entire Riverside precinct. 27 officers are indicted. 16 plead guilty. Sergeant Mitchell gets 12 years for obstruction and conspiracy. The precinct is placed under federal oversight for 12 years. New policies are implemented nationwide. Mandatory bias training. Independent review boards. Body camera footage available to the public within 48 hours. A ban on compliance procedures that inflict pain without probable cause. 9 months after the verdict, Alicia stands in a community center in Riverside. It's a support group for victims of police misconduct. Tanya is there, about to start her freshman year at State University on a new scholarship. Isaiah brings his daughter, who's smiling now, slowly healing. Rosa makes tamales for everyone, her hands steady and strong. Nicole Warren is there too, working for a nonprofit that trains officers in de-escalation. She tells her story at every session. The cost of silence. The power of speaking up. Some departments won't hire her now. Others line up for her expertise. A young man approaches Alicia nervously. His name is Jordan. He was victim number 47, stopped 2 months before Alicia. I never reported it, he says quietly. I thought no one would believe me. Alicia takes his hand. I believe you. And because of what happened, because you're here now, other people will believe you too. 1 year later, Alicia returns to the intersection of Riverside and Oak. The community has placed a small memorial there, a plaque embedded in a garden of flowers. It reads, "Here, dignity was restored. August 12, 2024. The spot where she knelt is now covered in blooming roses, red and white and yellow, tended by volunteers from the neighborhood. She stands there as the sun sets, watching children play in the park across the street, watching people walk by without fear. An elderly black man stops beside her, reads the plaque. 'You the one this is about?' 'Yes. I'm one of them,' Alicia says. 'There were 52 of us.' The man nods slowly. 'My grandson, he wants to be a police officer. Before all this, I told him no way. Too dangerous for a black boy with a badge, trying to do right in a system doing wrong. But now?' He looks at the memorial. 'Now I think maybe there's hope.' 'There's always hope,' Alicia says. 'As long as people keep fighting for it.' She stays until the stars come out, until the streetlights flicker on, until the intersection is quiet except for the sound of the wind through the roses. Then she walks back to her car, back to her life, back to the 74th case waiting on her desk. Because the work isn't done. It's never done. But it's worth doing. Officer Ryan Brennan discovered too late that the woman he forced to kneel was the one person who could dismantle everything he'd built. But this story isn't about revenge. It's about accountability. It's about the 52 people who were told they were nothing and refused to believe it. It's about the long, hard road to justice and the people brave enough to walk it. If this story moved you, if it made you think, hit that like button and subscribe for more true stories about courage, justice, and people who refuse to stay silent. Drop a comment below. Have you or someone you know experienced something similar? Share your story. Your voice matters. Every single one of them matters. Thanks for watching, and remember, justice isn't given. It's earned. One case at a time.